In the summer of 1985, Miami's real estate market was booming. The city's skyline was rapidly changing, with new luxury developments sprouting up along the coastline. Among the many professionals capitalizing on this growth were Mark and Sarah Thompson, a married couple in their mid-30s who had established themselves as successful realtors specializing in high-end properties. Mark Thompson, 37, was a tall, lean man with a perpetual tan and a charismatic smile that served him well in his profession. He had a knack for numbers and a keen eye for property potential, which made him particularly adept at identifying lucrative investment opportunities for his clients. Originally from Chicago, Mark had moved to Miami in the late 1970s, drawn by the city's vibrant atmosphere and promising real estate market. Sarah Thompson, 35, complemented her husband's skills perfectly. With her sharp intellect and meticulous attention to detail, she excelled at handling the legal intricacies of property transactions. Her blonde hair and professional demeanor gave her an air of confidence that instilled trust in their clientele. Sarah had grown up in a small town in Florida and had always dreamed of making it big in a major city. The Thompsons had met at a real estate conference in 1980 and married 2 years later. They quickly realized that their combined talents could lead to a formidable business partnership. By 1985, they had established Thompson Luxury Real Estate, a boutique agency that catered to Miami's elite. Their office, located in a sleek building in downtown Miami, was a testament to their success, with its modern decor and breathtaking views of Biscayne Bay. Mark and Sarah's personal life was as polished as their professional image. They lived in a spacious condominium in Coconut Grove, drove matching BMWs, and were fixtures at Miami's most exclusive social events. To the outside world, they appeared to have it all: a thriving business, a strong marriage, and a lifestyle many envied. However, beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to show. The pressure of maintaining their high-flying lifestyle and the long hours required to stay at the top of their game were taking a toll on their relationship. They had begun to argue more frequently, often about work-related issues that spilled over into their personal life. Despite these tensions, the Thompsons remained united in their ambition. When they were approached to become the exclusive listing agents for Palmyra Heights, a new ultra-luxury residential complex in Miami Beach, they saw it as an opportunity to cement their status as the city's premier luxury real estate team. Palmyra Heights was set to be the most exclusive address in Miami. Developed by real estate mogul Victor Hawthorne, the complex promised unparalleled luxury, security, and privacy for its residents. The Thompsons were thrilled to be associated with such a prestigious project, seeing it as a gateway to even greater success. Little did Mark and Sarah know that their involvement with Palmyra Heights would lead them into a web of mystery, danger, and death that would test their skills, their marriage, and their very survival in ways they could never have imagined. As the summer of 1985 progressed, the Thompsons threw themselves into marketing Palmyra Heights, unaware that they were about to become entangled in a series of events that would shake the foundations of Miami's high society and force them to confront dark secrets lurking behind the glittering facade of luxury living. Palmyra Heights stood as a testament to opulence and exclusivity on the sun-drenched shores of Miami Beach. The complex, a gleaming 30-story tower of glass and steel, rose majestically against the azure sky, its curved facade mimicking the gentle waves of the nearby Atlantic Ocean. Designed by renowned architect Carlos Mendoza, the building was a masterpiece of modern luxury, blending cutting-edge technology with elegant aesthetics. The complex boasted 50 spacious residences, each occupying at least half a floor, with penthouse suites spanning entire levels. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the ocean, the Miami skyline, and the lush tropical landscapes surrounding the property. Private elevators, smart home systems, and state-of-the-art security measures were standard features in every unit. Palmyra Heights amenities were unparalleled in Miami. The ground floor housed a lavish lobby with 24-hour concierge service. The third floor was dedicated to leisure, featuring an Olympic-sized infinity pool, a fully equipped fitness center, a spa, and a gourmet restaurant exclusively for residents and their guests. The rooftop boasted a helipad for those who preferred to avoid Miami's notorious traffic. Security at Palmyra Heights was tight and sophisticated. A team of ex-military personnel manned the entrance and patrolled the grounds. Biometric access controls, surveillance cameras, and a central security command center ensured that privacy and safety were never compromised. The residents of Palmyra Heights represented a cross-section of Miami's elite. Victor Hawthorne, 55, the developer of Palmyra Heights, occupied the top-floor penthouse. A self-made real estate tycoon, Hawthorne was known for his shrewd business acumen and his collection of exotic cars. Elena Vasquez, 42, a prominent neurosurgeon, lived on the 28th floor. Recently divorced, she was known for her philanthropic work and her passion for modern art. The Goldstein family, David, 60, his wife Rachel, 55, and their adult son Michael, 28, owned a full-floor residence on the 25th level. David was a hedge fund manager with a reputation for aggressive trading strategies. James Chen, 38, a tech entrepreneur who had recently sold his startup for billions, resided on the 22nd floor. He was rarely seen, preferring to work from his home office. Olivia Sinclair, 65, widow of a late oil tycoon, occupied a luxurious suite on the 20th floor. She was a socialite known for her lavish parties and her extensive jewelry collection. The Richardson couple, Thomas, 45, and Catherine, 43, lived on the 18th floor. Thomas was a senior partner at a prestigious law firm, while Catherine managed a high-end boutique in South Beach. Derek Foster, 50, a reclusive best-selling author, had chosen the 15th floor as his residence and writing sanctuary. His psychological thrillers often topped the New York Times bestseller list. Maria and Antonio Fernandez, both in their early 40s, were relatively new residents on the 12th floor. Antonio was a rising star in Miami's banking sector, while Maria was a stay-at-home mother to their twin daughters. Robert Blackwell, 70, a retired judge, lived on the 10th floor. Known for his sharp mind and strict interpretations of the law, he now spent his days playing golf and writing his memoirs. Samantha Wong, 35, an international fashion model, had recently purchased a unit on the 8th floor as her Miami base between global assignments. As Mark and Sarah Thompson began their work as the exclusive realtors for Palmyra Heights, they were acutely aware of the prestige and responsibility that came with catering to such an elite clientele. They organized exclusive viewings, liaised with potential buyers' personal assistants, and ensured that every interaction was handled with the utmost discretion and professionalism. The Thompsons quickly became familiar faces around Palmyra Heights, often seen in the lobby or by the pool, engaging with residents and showcasing available units. They were meticulous in their approach, studying the backgrounds of potential buyers to ensure they met the strict criteria set by Victor Hawthorne for residency in his prized development. Little did the Thompsons know that behind the polished marble floors, designer furnishings, and million-dollar views, Palmyra Heights harbored secrets that would soon thrust them into a dangerous world of deceit, corruption, and murder. The very exclusivity that made the complex so desirable would also make it the perfect setting for a series of crimes that would shake Miami's high society to its core. On a sweltering August evening in 1985, the tranquility of Palmyra Heights was shattered by a discovery that would mark the beginning of a series of tragic events. At approximately 9:15 p.m., the body of Elena Vasquez, the 42-year-old neurosurgeon, was found floating face down in the complex infinity pool. The discovery was made by James Chen, the reclusive tech entrepreneur who had decided to take a late-night swim to clear his head after a long day of coding. Chen's panicked shouts alerted the security team, who quickly secured the area and called emergency services. Detective Michael Ramirez of the Miami Beach Police Department arrived on the scene at 9:45 p.m. A seasoned investigator with 15 years of experience, Ramirez was known for his methodical approach and keen eye for detail. As he surveyed the crime scene, several factors immediately struck him as unusual. Dr. Vasquez was fully clothed in an expensive evening gown, not typical pool attire. Her designer handbag was found neatly placed on a nearby lounge chair, contents undisturbed. There were no signs of struggle or violence on or around the pool area. Security cameras covering the pool area had mysteriously malfunctioned for a 30-minute window around the estimated time of death. The medical examiner, Dr. Sarah Patel, arrived shortly after and conducted a preliminary examination of the body. She estimated the time of death to be between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. While drowning seemed the obvious cause, Dr. Patel noted some inconsistencies that warranted further investigation. Mark and Sarah Thompson were notified of the incident by Victor Hawthorne himself. As the public faces of Palmyra Heights, they were tasked with managing the situation discreetly to prevent any negative publicity that could affect property values or future sales. The following morning, Detective Ramirez began his formal investigation. He interviewed James Chen first, who provided a detailed account of his discovery of the body. Chen appeared genuinely shaken by the event and couldn't offer any insights into Dr. Vasquez's personal life or potential enemies. Next, Ramirez spoke with the security team. Head of security, Frank Morales, a former Navy SEAL, was visibly frustrated by the camera malfunction. He explained that the system had been recently upgraded and had never experienced issues before. Morales promised a full internal investigation into the technical failure. The detective then turned his attention to Dr. Vasquez's background. He learned that she had been at Palmyra Heights for a charity event hosted by Olivia Sinclair earlier that evening. Witnesses confirmed that Vasquez had left the party around 8:15 p.m., stating she needed to prepare for an early surgery the next day. Interviews with other residents painted a picture of Elena Vasquez as a dedicated professional and a private person. Her recent divorce had been amicable, and she seemed to have no financial troubles or known enemies. However, Thomas Richardson, the lawyer, mentioned in passing that he had overheard Vasquez in a heated phone conversation a few days prior, though he couldn't make out the details. As the day progressed, Mark and Sarah Thompson found themselves in an uncomfortable position. They were trying to balance their cooperation with the police investigation while also attempting to maintain the air of exclusivity and security that Palmyra Heights promised its residents. The autopsy results came in late that evening, adding another layer of complexity to the case. Dr. Patel's report indicated that while water was found in Elena Vasquez's lungs, consistent with drowning, there were also traces of a powerful sedative in her system. The levels were high enough to have rendered her unconscious or severely impaired. This new information transformed the case from a possible accident to a probable homicide. Detective Ramirez now had to consider who might have had access to such drugs and the opportunity to administer them to Dr. Vasquez. As news of the potential murder spread through Palmyra Heights, a palpable tension descended upon the luxurious complex. Residents began to eye each other with suspicion, and the once friendly atmosphere turned cold and guarded. For Mark and Sarah Thompson, the situation presented a significant challenge. They had to navigate the fine line between assisting the police and protecting the privacy of their high-profile clients. Moreover, they realized that their intimate knowledge of the building and its residents might prove crucial to solving the case. As the first week of the investigation drew to a close, Detective Ramirez was left with more questions than answers. Who had access to the sedatives found in Dr. Vasquez's system? What was the significance of the heated phone call overheard by Thomas Richardson? And perhaps most importantly, who stood to benefit from the death of a well-respected neurosurgeon? Little did anyone know that this was only the beginning of a series of events that would unravel the carefully constructed facade of Palmyra Heights, exposing the dark secrets lurking behind its gleaming walls. In the days following Elena Vasquez's death, Mark and Sarah Thompson found themselves in an unprecedented situation. As the exclusive realtors for Palmyra Heights, they were caught between their professional obligations to maintain the complex, prestigious image and their growing concern about the safety of the residents. The morning after the autopsy results were released, the Thompsons met with Victor Hawthorne in his opulent penthouse office. Hawthorne, visibly agitated, paced the room as he spoke. "This is a disaster," Hawthorne declared, running a hand through his silver hair. "We need to contain this situation immediately. The last thing we need is for Palmyra Heights to become known as a crime scene." Mark nodded, his usually confident demeanor somewhat subdued. "We understand, Mr. Hawthorne. We're already fielding calls from concerned residents and potential buyers." Sarah, ever the pragmatist, interjected, "Perhaps we should consider hiring a private investigator to work alongside the police, someone who can be more discreet in their inquiries." Hawthorne paused, considering the suggestion. "That's not a bad idea, Sarah. But we need to be careful not to interfere with the official investigation. The last thing we want is to be accused of obstruction." As they left the meeting, Mark and Sarah exchanged worried glances. They both knew that their roles had just expanded far beyond their usual realtor duties. Over the next few days, the Thompsons began their own subtle investigation. They leveraged their friendly relationships with the residents to gather information, always under the guise of checking in on their well-being or discussing property matters. Their first stop was Olivia Sinclair's residence. As the host of the charity event on the night of Elena's death, she was a key witness. Olivia greeted them in her lavishly decorated living room, a glass of Chardonnay in hand despite the early hour. "Oh, it's just dreadful, isn't it?" Olivia sighed dramatically. "Poor Elena. She was in such good spirits that night, you know. Talked about some breakthrough in her research." Sarah leaned in, her interest piqued. "Did she mention anything specific about her work?" Olivia waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, you know how it is with these medical types. All very technical. Something about a new surgical technique, I believe. She was quite excited about it." As they left, Mark whispered to Sarah, "We should look into her research. Maybe there's a connection there." Their next stop was James Chen's apartment. The tech entrepreneur seemed reluctant to speak at first, but eventually opened up. "I keep replaying that night in my head," Chen said, his eyes distant. "I wish I had gone for my swim earlier. Maybe I could have done something." Mark placed a reassuring hand on Chen's shoulder. "You did everything you could. We're all just trying to make sense of this tragedy." As they were leaving, Sarah noticed a pill bottle on Chen's kitchen counter. The label indicated a strong sleep aid, not uncommon among high-stress professionals, but it piqued her interest nonetheless. Over the next few days, the Thompsons continued their discreet inquiries. They learned that Thomas Richardson, the lawyer who had overheard Elena's heated phone call, was representing a client in a malpractice suit against Miami General Hospital, where Elena worked. This potential conflict of interest raised eyebrows. They also discovered that David Goldstein, the hedge fund manager, had recently lost a significant amount of money in a failed biotech investment. Rumors suggested he was looking for new opportunities in the medical field. As they gathered information, Mark and Sarah were careful to share their findings with Detective Ramirez. They didn't want to compromise the official investigation, but they felt their unique position could provide valuable insights. 1 week after Elena's death, the Thompsons received an anonymous note slipped under their office door. It read, "Not everything at Palmyra Heights is as it seems. Dig deeper into the Hawthorne Foundation." This cryptic message sent a chill down their spines. The Hawthorne Foundation was Victor Hawthorne's charitable organization, which funded various medical research projects. Was there a connection to Elena's death? As Mark and Sarah delved deeper into the mystery, they began to realize that their roles as realtors had thrust them into a complex web of secrets and potential motives. The luxury and glamour of Palmyra Heights now seemed like a thin veneer, hiding darker truths beneath. Their investigation was about to take an even more dangerous turn, as the peaceful facade of Palmyra Heights was shattered once again by another mysterious death. The Thompsons were unwittingly becoming central figures in a story that was far bigger and more perilous than they could have ever imagined. 2 weeks after Elena Vasquez's death, Palmyra Heights was rocked by a second tragedy. On a quiet Tuesday morning, the body of David Goldstein, the 60-year-old hedge fund manager, was discovered in the complex state-of-the-art fitness center. At approximately 5:30 a.m., Catherine Richardson, the wife of lawyer Thomas Richardson, found Goldstein collapsed on a treadmill during her usual early morning workout routine. Despite immediate efforts to resuscitate him, Goldstein was pronounced dead at the scene by paramedics. Initially, it appeared to be a straightforward case of a heart attack. However, given the recent events, Detective Ramirez approached the scene with heightened suspicion. The medical examiner, Dr. Patel, conducted a thorough examination and found something alarming. Tiny puncture marks on Goldstein's neck, barely visible to the naked eye. The autopsy results, expedited due to the circumstances, revealed traces of a powerful, fast-acting neurotoxin in Goldstein's system. The substance was sophisticated and not commonly available, suggesting that this was no accidental death. As news of the second death spread through Palmyra Heights, panic began to set in among the residents. The once coveted address was quickly gaining a reputation as a dangerous place to live. Mark and Sarah Thompson found themselves working overtime to calm nerves and prevent a mass exodus of residents. They organized a meeting with all occupants, where Victor Hawthorne announced increased security measures, including 24/7 guards on each floor and mandatory check-ins for all visitors. Despite these precautions, tension in the building continued to escalate. Residents began to eye each other with suspicion, and the once friendly community atmosphere disintegrated into paranoia and fear. The Thompsons' own investigation took on a new urgency. They delved deeper into Goldstein's background, discovering that he had recently been in talks with a controversial biotech firm about a significant investment. This firm, coincidentally, had been in competition with a research project that Elena Vasquez had been involved in. As they pieced together this information, Mark and Sarah realized they were potentially uncovering a conspiracy that went beyond the walls of Palmyra Heights. They shared their findings with Detective Ramirez, who began to see the two deaths as potentially connected. Just as the investigation seemed to be gaining momentum, tragedy struck again. 3 days after Goldstein's death, Robert Blackwell, the 70-year-old retired judge, was found dead in his 10th-floor apartment. The scene was gruesome. Blackwell's body was discovered by his housekeeper, slumped over his desk in the study. Initial reports suggested he had been bludgeoned to death with a heavy object, later identified as an antique gavel from his own collection. This third death sent shockwaves through Palmyra Heights. It was no longer possible to dismiss these as isolated incidents. A killer was clearly at large within the supposedly secure confines of the luxury complex. The police presence at Palmyra Heights intensified. Detective Ramirez set up a temporary command center in one of the unsold units, much to Victor Hawthorne's chagrin. The entire building was placed on lockdown, with residents only allowed to leave or enter under police supervision. For Mark and Sarah Thompson, the situation had become a nightmare. Their dream of being the go-to realtors for Miami's elite was crumbling before their eyes. More pressingly, they were beginning to fear for their own safety. As they reviewed what they knew about the victims, a pattern began to emerge. Elena Vasquez, David Goldstein, and Robert Blackwell had all been involved, in various capacities, with a medical research project funded by the Hawthorne Foundation. The project, they learned, was related to a groundbreaking anti-aging treatment that promised to revolutionize the field of longevity science. The Thompsons realized they had stumbled upon something much bigger and more dangerous than they had initially imagined. The stakes were no longer just about property values and their professional reputation. Lives were at risk, possibly including their own. As the police investigation intensified and residents lived in fear, Mark and Sarah knew they had to tread carefully. They were walking a fine line between helping to solve the crimes and potentially becoming the next targets. The once glamorous Palmyra Heights had transformed into a gilded cage, trapping its wealthy residents in a web of fear, suspicion, and deadly secrets. As the sun set on another tense day in Miami, the Thompsons couldn't help but wonder, who would be next, and could they uncover the truth before it was too late? As the death toll at Palmyra Heights rose to 3, Detective Ramirez intensified his investigation, working closely with Mark and Sarah Thompson. The realtors' intimate knowledge of the building and its residents proved invaluable as they delved deeper into the complex web of relationships and potential motives. The investigation began with a thorough re-examination of the crime scenes. Forensic teams combed through Elena Vasquez's apartment, the pool area, the gym where David Goldstein died, and Robert Blackwell's study. They were looking for any overlooked evidence that might connect the 3 deaths. In Vasquez's apartment, they discovered a hidden safe behind a painting. Inside were research notes detailing her work on the anti-aging treatment. The notes mentioned potential side effects that could be detrimental if the treatment was rushed to market. This information shed new light on her heated phone conversation overheard by Thomas Richardson. At the gym, a more thorough sweep revealed a small empty vial hidden in an air vent near the treadmill where Goldstein collapsed. Lab analysis confirmed traces of the neurotoxin found in his system. The sophistication of the poison narrowed down the list of potential suspects to those with access to advanced pharmaceutical compounds. In Blackwell's study, investigators found a draft of a legal opinion hidden in a false bottom of his desk drawer. The document suggested he was preparing to rule against a major pharmaceutical company in a case related to patent rights for anti-aging compounds. This connection to the other victims' work couldn't be ignored. With these new pieces of evidence, Detective Ramirez and the Thompsons began a series of in-depth interviews with the residents of Palmyra Heights. James Chen, the tech entrepreneur, was questioned again about the night he found Vasquez's body. Under more intense scrutiny, He revealed that he had been working on developing AI algorithms for predicting drug interactions, work that could have significant implications for the anti-aging research. Olivia Sinclair, the socialite widow, was interviewed about her charity event. She disclosed that several pharmaceutical executives had been in attendance, including representatives from companies involved in longevity research. She also mentioned overhearing a tense conversation between Vasquez and an unidentified man at the party. The Richardsons, Thomas and Catherine, were questioned separately. Thomas admitted that the malpractice suit he was working on was against a doctor who had been collaborating with Vasquez on the anti-aging treatment. Catherine, who found Goldstein's body, revealed that she had seen a figure in dark clothing hurriedly leaving the gym area just before she entered, but couldn't identify who it was. Victor Hawthorne, as the developer of Palmyra Heights and the founder of the Hawthorne Foundation, faced particularly intense questioning. He vehemently denied any involvement in the deaths, but appeared nervous when asked about the specifics of the anti-aging research his foundation was funding. Throughout these interviews, Mark and Sarah Thompson played a crucial role. Their friendly relationships with the residents often helped to ease tensions and encourage more open communication. They also picked up on subtle cues and inconsistencies that might have escaped notice by the police. As they dug deeper, the Thompsons uncovered a complex network of financial transactions linking several residents to the anti-aging research. They discovered that David Goldstein's hedge fund had been secretly funneling money into a shell company that was a major shareholder in the pharmaceutical company developing the treatment. They also found that Samantha Wong, the international model, had been quietly investing large sums of money into biotech startups focused on longevity science. Her seemingly unrelated career in fashion had provided a perfect cover for her involvement in the industry. One of the most surprising discoveries came when they looked into Derek Foster, the reclusive author. His latest unpublished manuscript, found on his computer, was a detailed fictional account of a conspiracy surrounding an anti-aging treatment with eerie similarities to the actual events unfolding at Palmyra Heights. As the investigation progressed, the atmosphere in Palmyra Heights grew increasingly tense. Residents were afraid to leave their apartments, and several had hired private security. The once bustling common areas were now eerily quiet, save for the constant presence of police and forensic teams. Mark and Sarah Thompson found themselves in a precarious position. Their role as realtors had evolved into something far more dangerous. Amateur detectives in a high-stakes game where the next move could be fatal. They were piecing together a puzzle that pointed to a conspiracy involving billions of dollars, cutting-edge science, and a ruthless killer who would stop at nothing to protect their interests. As they shared their findings with Detective Ramirez, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were getting closer to the truth, but also potentially making themselves targets. The key to unraveling the mystery seemed to lie in the details of the anti-aging treatment and the Hawthorne Foundation's involvement. But pursuing this lead would mean confronting some of Miami's most powerful and dangerous individuals. With each new piece of evidence, the stakes grew higher, and the list of potential suspects and potential next victims continued to evolve. The Thompsons knew they were racing against time to solve the mystery before the killer struck again, all while trying to preserve what was left of Palmyra Heights' reputation and their own safety. As the investigation deepened, Mark and Sarah Thompson, working alongside Detective Ramirez, began to uncover a complex web of connections that linked the three victims. The key to understanding these connections lay in the groundbreaking anti-aging treatment being developed under the auspices of the Hawthorne Foundation. Through meticulous examination of financial records, research papers, and confidential documents, they pieced together a timeline of events that shed light on the motive behind the murders. 5 years ago, the Hawthorne Foundation initiated a highly secretive research project codenamed Eternal Spring. The project's goal was to develop a revolutionary anti-aging treatment that promised to extend human lifespan significantly. Dr. Elena Vasquez was recruited as the lead researcher for the project due to her expertise in neurology and cellular regeneration. Her work showed immense promise, with early trials demonstrating unprecedented results in reversing the aging process at a cellular level. David Goldstein's hedge fund had been the primary financial backer of the project, funneling millions of dollars through a complex network of shell companies to avoid drawing attention to the research. Judge Robert Blackwell, known for his expertise in medical law, had been quietly advising the Hawthorne Foundation on the legal implications of the research and helping to navigate the complex regulatory landscape. As the Thompsons dug deeper, they discovered that the project had reached a critical juncture just weeks before the first murder. Dr. Vasquez had uncovered potential long-term side effects of the treatment that could be catastrophic rapid-onset dementia and aggressive cancerous growths in some test subjects. Emails recovered from Vasquez's personal computer revealed that she had been pushing to halt human trials and go back to the drawing board. This decision would have delayed the treatment's release by years and potentially cost investors billions. The motive for the murders began to crystallize. Someone with a vested interest in the project was eliminating obstacles to bring the treatment to market, regardless of the potential dangers. Further investigation revealed more players in this high-stakes game. James Chen's AI algorithms were being used to predict and potentially mitigate the side effects of the treatment. His work was crucial in making the treatment appear safer than it actually was. Samantha Wong, the model, was more than just an investor. Her flawless appearance and apparent agelessness were being used as unofficial marketing for the potential of the treatment. She had undergone early, experimental versions of the treatment. Derek Foster, the author, had stumbled upon details of the project while researching for his next novel. His manuscript was not fiction, but a thinly veiled exposé of the Eternal Spring Project. The Richardsons were involved more deeply than initially thought. Thomas was not just working on a malpractice suit. He was building a case to expose the ethical violations of the Eternal Spring Project. Catherine, unbeknownst to her husband, was an early participant in the human trials and was experiencing concerning symptoms. As Mark and Sarah compiled this information, they realized the enormity of what they had uncovered. The potential profits from a successful anti-aging treatment were astronomical, easily in the hundreds of billions of dollars. This motive made everyone involved a potential suspect or a potential future victim. They presented their findings to Detective Ramirez, who was both impressed by their work and alarmed by the implications. The case had grown far beyond a series of isolated incidents at a luxury condo complex. It now involved corporate espionage, medical ethics violations, and a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of Miami's business and social elite. The detective began to coordinate with federal authorities, realizing that the scope of the crime went beyond local jurisdiction. Meanwhile, the Thompsons were tasked with compiling a comprehensive report detailing all their findings. As they worked late into the night in their office at Palmyra Heights, Mark and Sarah felt the weight of their discovery. They had entered this investigation to protect their business interests and the reputation of Palmyra Heights. Now they found themselves at the center of a case that could reshape the future of medicine and human longevity. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but the most crucial question remained unanswered. Who was behind the murders? The list of suspects was still long, and each had the means, motive, and opportunity to commit these crimes. As they prepared to present their full findings to the authorities, Mark and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The killer was still out there, and with the investigation closing in, they might be desperate enough to strike again. The race to uncover the truth had become a matter of life and death, not just for the residents of Palmyra Heights, but potentially for millions who might be affected by the release of a dangerous and untested anti-aging treatment. As the investigation reached its crescendo, tension at Palmyra Heights had reached a fever pitch. The once luxurious haven had transformed into a pressure cooker of suspicion and fear. It was in this charged atmosphere that Mark and Sarah Thompson, along with Detective Ramirez, prepared to confront their prime suspect. Their meticulous investigation had led them to an unexpected conclusion. Victor Hawthorne, the developer of Palmyra Heights and founder of the Hawthorne Foundation, was the mastermind behind the murders. The final piece of the puzzle had fallen into place when the Thompsons discovered a hidden safe room in Hawthorne's penthouse. Inside, they found irrefutable evidence linking him to the murders. A vial of the same neurotoxin used to kill David Goldstein, detailed dossiers on each of the victims, including their schedules and routines, a burner phone with text messages coordinating the timing of the murders. Most damning of all, a personal journal outlining Hawthorne's motivations and plans. The journal revealed that Hawthorne had been diagnosed with a terminal illness 2 years ago. The Eternal Spring Project was his desperate attempt to save his own life. When Dr. Vasquez threatened to delay or cancel the project due to the dangerous side effects, Hawthorne decided to take matters into his own hands. On a stormy Miami evening, Detective Ramirez, accompanied by a SWAT team, prepared to apprehend Hawthorne. Mark and Sarah, despite being warned to stay away, insisted on being present. Their knowledge of the building's layout could prove crucial. As the team approached Hawthorne's penthouse, they were met with an eerie silence. The door was ajar, and as they entered, they found the luxurious apartment in disarray. Hawthorne was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, Sarah noticed a slight draft coming from behind a bookshelf. She remembered an offhand comment Hawthorne had once made about secret passages in the building, a feature he'd planned but officially scrapped. On a hunch, she pressed a hidden switch, revealing a concealed elevator. Detective Ramirez ordered the team to secure the area, while he, Mark, and Sarah took the elevator. It descended rapidly, opening into a state-of-the-art laboratory hidden beneath Palmyra Heights. There, surrounded by vials, computers, and medical equipment, stood Victor Hawthorne. "I suppose it was only a matter of time," Hawthorne said calmly, his back to the group as he gazed at a large screen displaying complex molecular structures. "You have no idea what you're interfering with. This is bigger than a few lives. This is about the future of humanity." As Hawthorne turned, they saw he was holding a syringe filled with a luminescent blue liquid, the latest iteration of the Eternal Spring treatment. "I had hoped to perfect it before anyone found out, but you forced my hand. I can't let you stop this, not when I'm so close." In a swift motion, Hawthorne raised the syringe to his own neck. Detective Ramirez shouted for him to stop, but it was too late. Hawthorne injected himself with the entire contents of the syringe. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Hawthorne began to convulse violently. His skin seemed to ripple and shift as if the very cells of his body were at war with each other. He collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. As Ramirez called for medical assistance, Mark and Sarah watched in horror as Hawthorne's body underwent a grotesque transformation. His hair began to darken, wrinkles smoothed out, but simultaneously, angry red lesions erupted across his skin. In a matter of minutes, Victor Hawthorne, the man who had sought eternal youth, lay dead, his body a testament to the dangers of his obsession. In the aftermath of Hawthorne's death, the full scope of the conspiracy came to light. The lab beneath Palmyra Heights contained data that would keep medical ethicists and researchers busy for years. The Eternal Spring Project was shut down, its research carefully controlled and studied to prevent future abuses. For Mark and Sarah Thompson, the resolution of the case brought a mix of relief and sadness. Their lives and careers had been irrevocably changed by the events at Palmyra Heights. They had entered this world as ambitious realtors and emerged as key players in unraveling a conspiracy that touched on the very essence of human mortality. As the residents of Palmyra Heights tried to come to terms with what had happened, the Thompsons faced a decision. Did they want to continue in real estate, knowing what they now knew about the potential dark secrets hiding behind closed doors? Or did their experience awaken a new calling, perhaps in investigative work or consumer protection? One thing was certain: Palmyra Heights would never be the same. The gleaming tower stood as a reminder that sometimes the quest for perfection and eternal life can lead down a dark and dangerous path. For Mark and Sarah Thompson, it was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, forever changed by their brush with mortality in the shadows of luxury. In the weeks following Victor Hawthorne's dramatic demise, Palmyra Heights became the epicenter of a media storm. News vans camped outside the complex, reporters clamored for interviews with residents, and true crime enthusiasts speculated wildly on internet forums. The once exclusive address had become infamous overnight. For the residents of Palmyra Heights, the revelation of Hawthorne's crimes and the hidden laboratory beneath their feet was a profound shock. Many struggled to reconcile the charismatic developer they knew with the desperate, murderous man he had become. The aftermath brought significant changes to Palmyra Heights. Occupancy rates plummeted. Despite the solving of the murders, many residents couldn't shake the feeling of unease and chose to move out. The Goldstein family and the Richardsons were among the first to leave, unable to continue living where their loved ones had suffered. Property values in the complex nosedived. The stigma attached to Palmyra Heights made it difficult to attract new buyers, even at heavily discounted prices. The Hawthorne Foundation was dissolved, its assets frozen pending a thorough investigation. The promising research it had funded in various fields, not just the controversial Eternal Spring project, came to a halt, affecting numerous scientists and institutions. A class action lawsuit was filed against Hawthorne's estate by the residents of Palmyra Heights, claiming emotional distress and loss of property value. The hidden laboratory became the subject of intense scrutiny from medical ethics boards, FDA investigators, and law enforcement agencies. The full extent of the illegal experimentation conducted there would take years to fully uncover. For Mark and Sarah Thompson, the resolution of the case marked a turning point in their lives and careers. Their role in solving the murders brought them unexpected fame. They were hailed as heroes by some and viewed with suspicion by others who felt they had betrayed the trust of their high-profile clients. Their real estate business, once thriving, took a significant hit. Many wealthy clients were hesitant to work with realtors who had become so publicly embroiled in a scandal, regardless of their heroic actions. The Thompsons found themselves at a crossroads professionally. Their experience had awakened a passion for investigation and justice, leading them to consider a career change. Their relationship, tested by the stress and danger of the investigation, emerged stronger. They had discovered new depths to their partnership, both personal and professional. They were approached by several publishers interested in their story, offering lucrative book deals for a tell-all account of the Palmyra Heights murders. Detective Michael Ramirez, recognized for his work on the case, received a promotion. However, he also faced scrutiny for allowing civilians, the Thompsons, to become so deeply involved in the investigation. His career became a balancing act between acclaim for solving the high-profile case and navigating the political fallout from his unorthodox methods. The wider implications of the Palmyra Heights case reverberated through Miami and beyond. The FDA and other regulatory bodies launched comprehensive reviews of anti-aging research protocols, implementing stricter oversight on clinical trials in the field. The case sparked a national conversation about the ethics of life extension technologies and the lengths to which people might go in pursuit of prolonged youth. Several pharmaceutical companies and biotech firms associated with the Hawthorne Foundation faced investigations, leading to a temporary cooling of investment in the anti-aging sector. Privacy concerns rose among wealthy individuals, leading to increased demand for personal security services and more rigorous background checks on household staff and business associates. As the dust began to settle, Palmyra Heights stood as a stark reminder of how the pursuit of eternal youth could lead to a dark and tragic end. The glittering tower, once a symbol of luxury and exclusivity, now served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the moral pitfalls of playing with the fundamental forces of nature. For Mark and Sarah Thompson, the future remained uncertain but full of potential. They had entered the world of Palmyra Heights as ambitious realtors and emerged as unlikely heroes, their lives forever changed by the discovery of the deadly secret lurking behind its luxurious facade. As Miami's skyline glittered in the distance, the Thompsons looked out from their office one last time, contemplating their next move. Whatever path they chose, they knew their experience at Palmyra Heights would inform their decisions and shape their perspective for years to come. The pursuit of truth and justice had come at a high price, but it had also opened up new possibilities they never could have imagined.